I'm Dan, and this is 10,000 Hours of Indie, a podcast exploring new music and delving deeper into what goes on in the background of the independent music industry. I'm a musician and passionate music lover, and I wanted to delve deeper into new music in the independent scene around the world. I also saw this as a chance to help artists connect and share their stories, so if there's someone you hear and you want to find out more about, every podcast has links in the show description. Get involved, help this community grow, follow on the 10,000 Hours of Indie socials, you can find all the links in the show description. And also feel free to email me about anything music related, 10,000indie@gmail.com. I'm open to any ideas and love listening to your promos. Bristol-based Sugarhorse are an experimental rock band who venture from soft riffs to an all-out assault on the ears in seconds. Ashley Tubb on vocals and guitar, Chris Howarth on bass, Jake Healy baritone guitar and keyboards, and Martin Savage on drums. The band are due to release their third album, Not a Sound in Heaven, on the 10th of April, and I wanted to find out more, so I'm speaking to Ash. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, pleasure to be here.
So, let's start at the beginning. What's the backstory of the band? How did you all meet? That kind of thing.
It's nothing massively exciting. A bunch of us went to university together. A bunch of us have been in bands before. Then we moved to Bristol after university and then just kind of found each other again through like gigs. And I lived with Chris, the bass player, for a few years as well. Just kind of came together it's probably about 2015, I think, maybe 2016. And then we didn't really do that much for a while. And then it just it snowballed. It's quite organic. We didn't just like get together and then be like, let's just do this properly from the start. No, we were like much more useless for quite an extended period of time.
Was this the music you always planned to make that you're making, or did it go in a different direction?
Originally, I swear, me and Chris always talked about it wanting to sound a bit like Dinosaur Jr. or like Pavement or something, I swear. And then, I don't know, we just kind of got in a room and other things happened, really. It wasn't planned. I think you can kind of tell it's not planned just because it's so all over the place stylistically, I guess.
So what are your influences as a band?
Quite a bit. We all like pretty like disparate music and art, and you play with bands or you play a show and people talk to you about stuff afterwards. And most of the time people try and talk to me about metal, and I'm so clueless when it comes to metal. I like metal, but I like a few metal bands, like really like a few metal bands. I'm not like a metal head guy. I guess like the metal bands that we'd like are like Sleep, Deftones. There's a band called Sumac from America that we all really like. And then we're all into kind of like noise rock, like Sonic Youth. It's a band from Ireland called Gillaband who are really great. Then loads of like 80s and 90s kind of like post-punk, shoegazy stuff. We're all really big My Bloody Valentine fans. We all really like The Cure. And then like recently, especially for this record, which I'm sure people will be able to tell like a little bit from the record, there's just been like lots of dance music influence, lots of electronic music influence. There's like dub on the record. I've been listening to like tons of Bill Withers for about 3 years. So I just want to write songs that have like the Bill Withers beat, like everything like the R&B beat. But as I say, we are into heavy stuff, but we're definitely not like metal guys. We tend to play with a lot of metal bands, I think, just because like it's heavy, I guess. I'm not really sure what that entails, but as I say, people always try and talk to me about metal. I'm like, sure, I got no idea. I got no idea what you're talking about.
Staying on the genre discussion, everythingisnoise.net said, have you heard the mathy melodic sludgy post-metal of Sugarhorse? How would you define the band's genre? Because I think experimental rock kind of scrapes the surface.
I think we're a kind of noise rock band in a way, like in the kind of Sonic Youth tradition. And Sonic Youth did like loads of different things. They could have like pretty songs, and they could have songs that were just like discordant noise and screaming, and they had like drone songs and stuff. So I think that's kind of what we're closest to, although we're probably like a little more like weighty than Sonic Youth were.
I think because your songs are quite long, I would say you're almost a post-rock band with vocals.
Yeah, I can see that as well. I mean, like, we like tons of that stuff, like Bark Psychosis and Godspeed. We're fans of that, and Slint.
In recent years, the band have been pretty prolific in terms of releases. You had a couple of singles last year. This is your third album already, and you've had some EPs in there as well. How do you stay so creative?
A couple of us really like a band called The Fall from the UK. And if anyone listening to this knows The Fall or likes The Fall, they'll know that The Fall have about 2,000 albums. While Marky Smith was still alive, they just released like constantly, like it was like a strict thing. We kind of wanted to do the same thing. And I think once you get into the headspace of being like, this has to be done. This is what we want to do. Like, this is, and it's not even like we want to release because we want to like sell the records or because we like want the prestige of a record. It's to me, it's kind of like part of the art, if that makes sense. It's part of what makes the band what it is, that we put stuff out quite often, and it helps. I'm sitting in my studio now. We have our own studio, so we recorded the whole of this album in here, and the last couple singles too. Everything's kind of done in-house. We're also like the least fussy musicians you've ever heard in your life. As I said previously, like we play with a lot of metal bands, and I know how long they take to make records and how like perfect everything has to be, like everyone's performance. And I think people would laugh if they heard us make the last album, because all of the parts in the songs are like really, really simple. Like we try and make everything as simple as possible. Don't make anything like complex. It's not about showing off. It's about like doing cool things, like making cool sounds, right? And like kind of serving the pop song as well, because I kind of like to think of the songs as pop songs. It's mostly about that. So none of the performances are technically difficult. And also like we don't record to click tracks. We record everything live together in one room. Usually you'd go somewhere to a practice room. Someone would bring in like the parts for a song or like rough ideas for a song. We'd hammer it out, then record a really bad demo in the room with someone's phone or something, and take it back, and we'd practice it a bunch and then bring it to a studio and record it. This time we did everything in one go. So we'd come in here with the parts. Everyone would come up with stuff. We'd finish the song, and then usually like take one or take two after we'd finished the song is what's on the record. And that also comes from people in the band liking Pavement and The Fall and stuff, where it's not perfect on purpose. Like the rough edges are good, and they're part of the performance.
So how do you write a song as a band? Because it seems, listening to your songs, lyrics are really important. Do they come first with you, or is it music first, or what? You know, is it a riff, a hook? What is it?
I'd say generally the lyrics come last, although there have been a couple songs where the lyrics have come first. Generally, as like a rule of thumb, they tend to be the last thing. But I think, like I know I've talked a lot about us being quite different from like heavier bands, but I think lots of like heavier rock bands, I guess, I would kind of base songs around like instrumental parts, whether that be like a bass line or like a guitar riff or something, right? Because that's just the nature of the music. Whereas I tend to focus on the actual like pop song elements. So I'll just come up with like cowboy chord stuff. I won't write like a whole song. What I'll do is I'll do like a verse and a chorus or something, and then maybe like a little bit that we can mess with and do different things with. And then I'll bring those like incredibly rough bits into the room, and everyone will kind of come up with their own parts, but also like just riff on like structures and interesting things that we can do. That tends to be the process. It's like a really skeletal kind of, not even a song, like halfway towards like a standard. I've written a song on an acoustic guitar.
So we'll move on to the release. At the time of this interview being recorded, you've just released the first single from the album, Secret Speech. Why did you choose that song as people's introduction to the album?
We like to try and pick like quite straightforward pop songs for our singles if we can. And that one's kind of one of the most straightforward on the record. I think that song is the most similar to what previous records have sounded like. And people might be like, wow, it sounds nothing like previous records. But it's like the rest of the record, I think, is pretty different, I would say, to our old material. It felt like a good little segue, a little kind of we're back type thing. And then the next single, which will be released soon, is like pretty mad. So we're preparing people for them.
What's the next single?
Ex-Human Shield.
The album's pretty dark in its content, including topics such as death, famine and politics. Why do you choose to delve into such heavy subject matter?
I think the music calls for it a little bit. I guess that's the first thing. It would be weird if I was like singing like happy songs.
Yeah, love songs maybe wouldn't work, yeah.
Yeah, maybe not, for most of it anyway. But this record is political because all times ever are political. You can't escape politics, but also like politics interests me. Politics also disgusts me. Like it's the dialectic of the two is interesting to say the very least. But also like I don't know. I feel like I spent a few years, quite a large section of my life, actually being quite like a nihilist in the sense that I felt like there wasn't really much to believe in, and that just drove a kind of like nihilistic anger, which was just like lash out in all directions. Whereas I think with age comes focus, and also with age comes, to some people at least, some that are lucky enough, such as myself, with age comes a little bit of comfort. And with comfort comes, for me at least, learning about the world, learning about how the history of the world and how the world works. It comes with, I'll be honest, like a little bit of guilt that I'm this comfortable and have this kind of free time and should be doing things to try and improve the lives of myself, but also like the people around me in this country, in my closer community, but also like internationally, if like I possibly can. So that's kind of what the lyrical themes on this record come from. It's like, I guess I've learned a little bit more about the world, and I don't think I can escape that knowledge, if that makes sense.
In the press release, it mentioned that you've been thinking about the sort of the stuff that we were both brought up with on UK TV of seeing famines in Africa and everything like that. So, yeah, it makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah, and right now, like as we speak, there are thousands of innocent people being murdered in Gaza and Palestine. So I think that's inescapable at present, and I think it's the crime of our age, unfortunately. So I think speaking up about that is important.
So obviously I've heard the album, but for those who haven't, can you tell us a bit more, sort of expand a little bit more on the themes in the 7 songs? I
think the big overarching theme is, for most of my adult life now, I've been pretty interested in politics, but there's something that happens in like the Western world. Definitely Britain, the same in the States, same in most of Europe, is politics is very much confined to the nation. It doesn't breach internationally that often, and when it does, it's internationally in a negative way, like someone is an enemy. It's someone that you're not supposed to like, right? And I think in recent years, I kind of just started learning about the history of kind of what Western empire and the West has done to nations and peoples throughout the world. And this is just in like the 20th century and this century ongoing, in the name of pretty much just building profits, making the line go up on graphs and adding shareholder value for a very few select people. And while some people might argue that it benefits us, I would argue that it benefits a very small amount of us, not a large amount. That's kind of the overarching theme of the record. I think it goes off in a couple different directions from there, but that's how I see it, at least.
Despite what we were just talking about, some of the titles are quite light-hearted, like History's Biggest T-shirts, for example. Obviously, a little tongue-in-cheek as titles go.
We've always kind of done it. It's nicked from Mogwai have always just added funny titles to quite serious music. And there's a band called Don Caballero that do it all the time. Used to do it all the time as well. But there's a danger when you're making heavy music of calling everything like Wrath or something, you know?
But you're not a metal band, so you can't do that.
It all comes across like a bit overwrought, and we're very conscious of that. I'm not a very self-serious person, so I'll take the piss out of myself a lot. I think that's where that comes from. And it's fun to just like come up with like little one-liner jokes that we can that we can call songs. That's part of the fun of being in the band, to be honest.
So what was the hardest track to realise from the original idea to finished song on this album?
It's always the last one in the writing process. A lot of the songs that are like very like, this is a song, I know this is going to be a good song, we just have to like get in a room, thrash it out, and it'll be like 4 or 5 minutes, it'll be really solid. And then you always have a couple of the songs where you're like, I have these good ideas, but I don't know what to do with them to make them interesting, and we need to just meditate on it a bit in the room and think about it and come up with stupid ideas, play them through, and then do something else. But I think History's Biggest T-Shirts was the last one in this process, and it was just the transitions between between the parts of the songs, always difficult to nail, because you kind of like, you do parts and you're like, oh, those are really cool, how do we get from that to that without it sounding like, and stop and go, you know? That was pretty tough. And then You Can't Say Dallas Doesn't Love You was pretty straightforward, but it's also like not something that we've done before. Like it's a dub song, essentially. It's just like one big dub song. I kind of think it sounds like Do Make Say Think or something, or some like weird old, like Bark Psychosis or something. Some weird old like post-rock band right at the end where it's kind of like a jam. Again, not something we've really done. So it's just like, it pushed in a couple of directions that aren't necessarily in our comfort zone, but that's fun, you know.
Let's talk about your social media. So, again, despite the content of your music being quite dark, you definitely have a light sense of humour. I love the names of your social media accounts. So, Sugar Horse Are Awful for Instagram, and Sugar Horse Ruined My Birthday on Facebook. What was in your head?
I don't know about you, but I hate like marketing. I hate when people trying to sell me products. I don't like it. It does my head in. And then when they also take it like super seriously, also does my head in. And when you're running like a band account, unless it's like a one-man project thing and you have like a Twitter account, if you're running a band account, it's basically just a marketing platform. So you might as well, as I say, we like taking the piss out of ourselves. So you might as well just take the piss out yourself while you're awkwardly going, can you buy this stuff that we made, please?
Yeah, that's fair enough. So the video for the first single, Secret Speech, has the warning, this video contains flashing images and banned Soviet animation. Tell us about the video and who did the animation and stuff.
A prior warning. We did not pay anyone to do the animation. It is an existing Soviet film that was banned in the 1970s, I believe.
Okay.
So a Soviet filmmaker made the film. I think it's called like The Magic Harp or something. Yeah, but it was banned in the 70s. Like, it's quite a famous bit of Soviet animation. It's not even really a dissident film. Like, the government board that made films in the Soviet Union made that, and then someone else on the board watched it and went, whoa, I don't know about that. So it never really came out. I think it might have come out in the in Perestroika in the late 80s. It never really came out in its time. And the good thing about Soviet films like that is they don't have copyright, so it's an easy thing to make a music video out of. So the idea comes from the song title. So the politics nerds, especially communism nerds, will know about this, but there's a very famous speech when after Joseph Stalin died, a guy called Khrushchev took over the leadership of the Soviet Union. He did this speech to the Politburo, I think, called the Secret Speech, in which he basically like exposed all of the crimes of Joseph Stalin. So it's a little nod to the song title.
As a band, you seem to be big fans of the music video format. You've got a video for every single you've released so far. And it's nice to trawl back through and see the progression. Do you ever do that?
Oh, man. No, I haven't done that. I should. I'll cringe at like how bad I think the old ones are, though. That'll be my problem.
Your poster designs. and album cover are really light and bright and a stark contrast from your music again. Is that part of your light-hearted humour, or did you just want that sort of juxtaposition of the art versus the music?
I think previously our artwork definitely was it was fully monochrome for quite a bit and was dark. And then last record we went colour, like in The Wizard of Oz, right? But it was the artwork was still quite dark. And this record we were like, right, we're doing Sugar Horse does dance music, right? So let's just go Technicolor, vibrant primary colours and day glow stuff. It's fun. And then gold for the record, so it's really ostentatious. I've gotten really into the history of Eastern Europe and the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Balkans and stuff. So there's a lot of, in the album artwork, there's a lot of quite obvious influence from stuff their iconography and their church designs and stuff like that, altar designs.
Are you head of art for the band?
I did this one. To be honest, we just do it however's easiest. If there's someone that we really like the art of, we'll ask them. If there's an idea there already, then we'll just use the idea. It's very free-flowing like that.
On to live shows. I've spoken to quite a few bands on the podcast who have played at Arctangent, which you played at last year on the main stage opening slot on the Saturday, was it?
Yes. Everyone's very hungover.
There's a fan video of a few tracks from your set on YouTube as well. Obviously, I wouldn't imagine you'd have anything bad to say about it, but what I've been told is even first thing in the mornings, the audience was packed in front of every stage. Is that what you found?
Yeah. We've played Arctangent a lot of times. A couple of people have called us the house band before. When we were playing the little stages, you could kind of get away with, and the festival was a lot smaller. You could kind of get away with playing every year. But then as you start playing the bigger stages of the later slots, they're like, oh, you can't play next year because you played this year. It used to just be a yearly thing where we'd be oh, okay, we're going to play Arctangent. We also get a free ticket to Arctangent. So just a free festival that's just down the road. But yeah, the main stage was crazy. I think that show, and we played another show, I think at Damnation Festival. I think those two are probably the biggest shows we've played. Both were wicked. Even in the morning in Arctangent, it was pretty rammed and everyone was pretty up for it. It's always weird though, obviously we don't play the biggest places in the world. We're very used to playing tiny little stages. We play quite loud live. We have a bit of a reputation for playing very loud. And little stages, there's a certain comfort that comes from just being you can't really hear any of the instruments. I can only hear them through my in-ears, and everything's just kind of a big wall of feedback and noise. There's a comfort that comes from that because you feel like no one can really hear you mess up. As soon as you go onto a bigger stage and everything's a lot further apart, it's oh, I can really hear myself being really bad at guitar.
I would like to mention a few words you said to the audience during that show, which was, we are the UK #1 anti-podcast band. And here we are.
I'll tell you the story behind that. It's because the guy that runs that festival and the main booker, James Scarlett, has a podcast, and his podcast was on one of the stages at the festival where they were clashing with us. So we started a little online beef, for fun. He's a friend, though.
So, how many of the album tracks have you played live already?
I don't think we've played any of this record live yet. Yeah, it's all going to be very new. We're on tour in the UK in April. We like to play a lot of new songs when we have them as well. So it's going to be a very this album heavy set with a couple of old tunes in there as well. I know from being in the room what the fun ones will be, the really fun ones will be. Thankfully, they're right at the start of the set, so you can kind of blast straight into them. I'm looking forward to it.
Promote the 4 dates. You're playing Bristol and London. What were the other 2?
Yeah, we're not playing Bristol on this tour. We will be back to Bristol, but Cardiff, Manchester, Glasgow, Nottingham, London, Leeds.
You've got those dates. What's coming up after that for the band? Are you hoping to do a few festivals and get a few last-minute festival confirmations?
There's some festivals already confirmed, and we will be returning to Europe, but there's nothing that I can confirm at this point.
So the final question, what music are you listening to at the moment that people may not be aware of and should take some time to check out?
There's a band that I think are from Leeds called Care Home. They're like a noise rock band, but they've got like a weird like organ goth thing to them that I find really cool, like almost like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds or something, you know, that like big organ, like melodrama type thing, but plus I guess like Jesus Lizard or something like that. So I find them really cool. I'm also listening to lots of like Sumac, which I listen to quite a lot anyway. And then there's a bunch of like older stuff. So I'm listening to lots of a band called Chavez at the moment, who are like an American band from like the 90s, or like a weirdo, kind of like Slint in a way, but like with like the guy from Pavement on vocals or something. And then lots of ambient-ish music. I'm going through a phase where I'm just like devouring books at the moment, which is awesome, and I'm really loving it. But it means that I realised that for a couple of weeks I was like, I barely listen to any music, so I better get some ambient music so I can read to it, you know? There's a massive record that's like 8 hours long by Max Richter called Sleep, which is supposed to listen to when you're going to sleep, apparently. But I find it really good for reading, so I've been listening to that a lot.
That's a good list. So, for anyone wishing to find out more about Sugar Horse, there's Instagram, Facebook, Bandcamp, and YouTube. The third Sugar Horse album, Not a Sound in Heaven, is due for release on the 10th of April via Fat Dracula Records and will be available both physically on CD and vinyl on the Bandcamp page and via all streaming platforms. Ash, thanks for being here. I hope the album reaches the right ears, as it's really good.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks for having me. Thanks to everyone for listening. I hope it didn't bore you to death. Come to a show. Say hello.